on to Tenerife and an Evo Diary from the new 991 version 2 launched, Gen 2, the new 911. The big news is that whilst it might not look very different from the outside, the new 911, the Carrera, has gone turbocharged for the first time. So behind me there is a 3 litre flat 6 with 2 turbochargers, and although this isn't going to be a sort of a full review, we'll get one in the UK very soon and do a proper video, I thought you might like to, well, see how that's affected the car, because the 911, whilst we might not all be able to afford to buy one, it feels like the sort of car that is part of the motoring firmament, really, and we all feel quite protective of it. We want to check that Porsche hasn't screwed it up, basically. So yes, we know the benefits of turbocharging, so I'll try and show you a few of those. But the main thing to start with is the fact that, well, does it still sound good? So here's a run that hopefully shows you that the new 911 really does sound rather good indeed. The lovely thing is that whilst the 911 Turbo, the daddy, the 4-wheel drive car, that has a lot of gas rush in it, in the noise, and it's actually quite difficult to tell where the red line is. This really has a proper crescendo that builds and builds right up into the top of the rev range, so it sounds much more like a naturally aspirated engine to that extent. You've obviously also got a lot more torque. You don't feel the need to out of this corner in 3rd gear, so it just pulls from 3,000 RPM there, really beautifully piling on the torque, whereas before I might have felt the need to go down to 2nd. And you can now roll on in 5th, 6th or even 7th on the motorway, and it just pulls that much more easily. One thing I should say is that there's no trickery in this, because despite the fact Porsche probably wants to give us one with a sports exhaust and rear wheel steer, PDCC, this is a standard Carrera S. So this is the sound you get. You're not having to buy anything else to get this sound. It really is this good straight out of the box. Carrera S, it's got 369 pounds-foot of torque, 414 brake horsepower, and in full PDK Sport Chrono it will now do 0 to 60 miles an hour in 3.7 seconds. 3.7 seconds for a Carrera S. That's insane. Even in the manual, with me steering the manual, it is phenomenally quick. They say it's as fast as a previous generation GT2 around the Nürburgring, and I can well believe it. One of the things I was most impressed with when I picked this up from the airport was the fact that it has real feel to the steering. It was something I was massively critical of in the 991 when it came out with electric power assisted steering. But this, it's so much better. There's a real sort of textural feedback through the wheel, and there's a lovely balance to the car, so it really feels like a 911. And because you've got the extra torque and the extra grunt out of corners, you can make the rear axle work really hard and just get it feeling like a 911, working that traction to its absolute limit, even very slightly over. Although I think to do big skids we'll need a circuit, because it has got an absolute ton of grip. Other nice little things, well, the PSM, the stability management, has now got a middle setting, a sports setting, so you can go between fully on and fully off, and you've just got that halfway house, which is nice. So I always thought that was a bit unfair, really, sort of just hanging you out to dry if you wanted to have any fun at all. You've got the little sort of Manatino switch down here now, which can change between normal, sport plus and individual, which works well. It's nicer than having the buttons down here, I think. The really nice thing for me is that the engine sounds good even when you're just pottering along, so at low revs you've still got a really nice flat 6 sound. And because it's slightly softer edged compared to the naturally aspirated engines, it actually sounds a bit more like an old air-cooled 911, which is, I hadn't expected at all, but it's a really nice touch, I think. So there we go, that's a very brief look at 991 Gen 2 to let you know that Porsche hasn't ruined the 911. I'm certainly very pleased. To see more Evo Diaries, just click on the links above. And if you like the video, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you.